I think that one of the reasons that people will be so won over by this film is because it's quite a lean, punchy setup underpinned by family dynamics that people can latch onto. What was it for you that was so attractive about the project when you were approached initially?
Well, some of the things that you said, that it has that family dynamic. I'm a father of four, and just the whole mess of that, like getting through a journey is one thing, and then being faced with a threat like they are is another one. And I love the kind of the organically, how it moves and how one bad decision leads to another one, and that's how life is. It's not always built up in the most clever and thought out decisions, and they get themselves in troubles that they have to get themselves out of. And it's also a metaphor in some way for how you move on with your family life after grieving. So I think those things, going to Africa, having an opportunity of creating a full-blown lion on screen that is a savage lion was also very tempting. So all these things in one eye, I'm up for it,
In the previous screening that I was in, I noticed that a lot of the audience reactions were very visceral. And it almost made me kind of feel like I was in a horror screening at times. Was that a kind of genre infusion that was in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to get people jump and experience it like they were there on the journey. So and that's the reason for the shooting style, is to create that kind of claustrophobic feeling and then things coming at you. And I do think that taps into our fear when we don't know what's behind the tree or behind the door or what in a horror film. So I think this genre is... It's not a horror film, but it's very related to that, creature feature or whatever you would call that. But what I liked about this one, because a lot of them have fantastical kind of creatures. This is actually a real creature and very close to, as close to what we can get to a real lion. It's big, but it's not bigger than they get. And actually reading the reports on lion attacks, they can be pretty savage, and they attack villages, and they do things that people are not aware of because it's mostly towards indigenous people, as sharks attack white people on our beautiful beaches, and therefore we write about it.
Did any of those, I mean, obviously this film is sort of the latest in a lineage of kind of man versus beast films. You think of Jaws or Jurassic Park, films like that. Did any of those films inform the process of making this?
No, not really, to be honest, because I wasn't looking to those references. I wanted to bring something a little different to the table, and I was more looking to films like Come and See, the Russian film, where it's about a boy going through a bombed village and losing his hearing. So it's more like that visceral feeling he had, and and I did also look to the energy that Children of Men created with the long takes. So that was more after I decided this because I remember that film being shot in that style. So I was more looking to that. But of course I've seen and experienced those films, so I know what the genre needs, But I did feel like it needed, what in my case I wanted to give a more realistic kind of vibe, to the lion, the creature.
You mentioned the long takes and the shooting style. Obviously, in the production notes, you spoke a little bit about how much of a challenge that was in terms of VFX and, especially in the climactic battle sequence. Can you talk a little bit about how some of those challenges were overcome?
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of prep. We needed to know exactly what we were doing. And of course, once you're shooting it, there's always a change because, the environment, whatever it is, doesn't quite fit to your breakdown, but so there was a great team. Frame Store here in UK was with me and got the best people there. So, and we needed to obviously to have it right in the take because we were not going to cut around it, which is often saves the day. So we needed to pace the movie right from the shooting. So you're kind of cutting it in camera, and then the more traditional scenes, which is kind of around the table or stuff like that, needed to then be adjusted to the pace of the long takes. But because you have like maybe 5 or 6 characters doing a 6 or 7 minute scene with like 10 lions inside the shot, it's obviously going to be very complicated. And 2 of them interacting with one of the characters, physically. So
Yeah.
so all of this had to be laid out, and I'm talking about a specific shot. For example, when they meet the lions for the first time, it took 2 days to get that shot. You know, it's only it's shot in one. It's no stitches. You know, the whole from when they come, they get out of the car until they drive away. That's all in one take.
So how was it directing the actors? Because obviously, I imagine their physical performances were very important in gluing it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I think we needed to, be very clear about, and do a lot of research on how they would interact and how the lion would react, and the weight. It's all about the weight as well, especially when it comes to the more visceral fights and connections. Gravity became incredibly important to me, and I don't know how many times I repeated that to the team. Like, I often feel that VFX is lacking in gravity, and I wanted and gravity comes from the weight on the power of how the lion, if it pulls you, and then how your body moves. Because sometimes when you're using wires and stuff, it's just too much power. It's too fast how they're moving. So we needed to be very specific about what is the energy and power of the lion, and how does the character move towards it. Now, even when they're bumping into him again, you still need to get that. Yeah.
Your filmography in general, thematically, is being quite concerned with, the theme of humans versus the epic scale and power of nature. What is it about that theme that you found so cinematically intriguing?
Well, first of all, I mean, I've done almost every genre. I've done comedies, and I've done family dramas, and I've done, sci-fi, volcano sci-fi in Iceland, called Katla. So, but there are, those bigger films lately, like Everest Adrift, and this one, yes, would definitely fall under that category. But I do think, I come from Iceland, and it's a volcano island, and we are in nature all day. I travel on my horses in the summer for weeks on, that's my summer vacation, just to herd my horses through the highlands of Iceland. So it's just who I am, and what interests me. I guess, people in nature is something that, one thing I always come to learn when I go on this journey, long journeys on my horses, is that people always surprise you. It's not the person, the biggest hero that you think is going to stand up to the difficulties. It might be the little guy or female or whoever in the, and often the guy who's loudest in the beginning just gets the most scared. And that's very interesting. It's interesting to learn people's nature through nature, how they react and how they deal with, and then you can think about how would that person have fared way back in the day when you had no, mobile phones or nothing to save you, no helicopters to come and pick you up, and it's very interesting to me, because that's where we really lie. We haven't been that long in civilization, if you think about it,
Beast is also sort of dealing with the dark side of human nature a little bit in terms of, dealing with the issue of poaching and the plight of lions in Africa. Is that something that you hope, do you hope that the public consciousness of this issue will be raised as a result of this film?
Yes, I would love that to happen. I think it was hard for me to talk about and blame the lion only for, like it's who it is. I think it was important to give it a backstory. And I think like a commercial movie like this is a great tool, not to preach or point to heart, but kind of raise awareness of those things, which are a huge problem, not only in Africa, but definitely in Africa and other places, that is poaching. And anti-poaching is a nasty thing as well, but it's a reaction to that.
One thing I noticed in the production notes that I found quite intriguing was your childhood fascination with lions, and talking about, doing like cutting out the lions and whatnot. I just wondered if that, childhood fascination has been something that has informed your work in the past, or is this a first for you? Well,
I think it's subconscious, and I think when I realized, when my mother brought this out of some box, like, oh yeah, well, now I understand why I'm also reacted so strongly to this material. But also being, I'm a horse, I have loads of horses, I breed horses, but I also eat them, and this might be a shock to many, but that's you're not necessarily, like a lot of animal protected people, they're not necessarily that involved with animals, it's a much wider thing, you know. Like I do eat meat, but at the same time I love animals, you know. So I see the beauty of the lion, but I also know it's a really grim animal, you know. It eats its other cubs, you know. They take over their females and impregnate them with their own DNA. It's just like nature as raw as it gets. So it's not about being sentimental about it. It's being, you know, pragmatic about it.
Great. Right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
But my
Thanks,
pleasure.
Bob.